Daddy, is that you? Nazaekpere asked with sleepy eyes as she noticed someone in her room. If you tell anybody, I will kill you, Uche warned as he picked up his trouser and left while sweating like he had run a marathon. Realization now dawned on Nazaekpere. Her mouth couldn't move, neither could she mutter a word. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she cried in the darkness of her cold room, for the temperature now felt freezing to her. Omalicha died when Chinazaekpere was only 5, and though no one expected her sudden death, she knew her time was drawing closer. Due to complications she had during delivery, her health had continued to deteriorate. Having made ample preparations for her daughter to have a better life, she used every moment she had to teach her daughter all she can. On her deathbed, she gave Chinazaekpere some words to say every day whenever she felt lonely. She knew her little girl would not understand the heaviness of these words, but hoped that it would remind her of everything she had taught her. In a weak and shaky voice, she said to her daughter, "My child, always remember that patience is a great virtue. Change is the only constant thing. Be good and good will find you." Said, she instructed Chinazaekpere to repeat what she had just said. Nazaekpere, being a bright child, learning faster and more attentive than other children, grabbed the words and recited them one after the other. With a smile, Omalicha said, "You are a brilliant child. You will do great things. Now go and get me a cup of water." Nazaekpere rushed off to get the water, and when she returned, her mother had given up the ghost, though she didn't know at that moment. What she did not understand was the events that followed after she told Mama Nkechi the herbalist that her mom had been sleeping since yesterday afternoon. Everyone had started acting strangely. She waited for her mom to wake up and explain everything that is happening like she always did. However, she was told that she would now be living with her father's sister, Auntie Chidinma, who resided in the city. Nazaekpere only realized she would never see her mom again when she stepped into the spacious mansion of Auntie Chidinma. Everyone was nice to her, especially her auntie's husband, Uche, whom she was asked to call Daddy. She thought at last, she now has a father. Since all her life, the words Daddy has never crossed her lips. At first, it felt like a dream. Then gradually it began to sink in. She now has a father. "Daddy!" she would always shout joyfully whenever Uche came home. If you didn't know this family before now, you would think she was the favorite child, for Uche showered her with lots of goodies. Her auntie also made sure to register her in the best school in town. Light seemed to have started penetrating into her dark world, for all was bright and happy. "Daddy, is that you?" Nazaekpere asked with sleepy eyes as she noticed someone in her room. She was now 15 years old. She had rapid growth and inherited her mother's beauty. Her hips became more tiny and her skin glowed in the sun. At the age of 10, she had a cleavage that could make any man run wild. Now, she looked like a goddess in human form, and all men were bewitched by her beauty. Uche was not excluded. She has long forgotten her past, but the events that unfolded this night became a nightmare she wished to wake up from. "If you tell anybody, I will kill you," Uche warned as he picked up his trouser and left while sweating like he had run a marathon. Realization now dawned on Nazaekpere. Her mouth couldn't move, neither could she mutter a word. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she cried in the darkness of her cold room, for the temperature now felt freezing to her. Why did Daddy do this to me? She muttered to herself in disbelief as she sat immobile on her bed. Determined to expose the devil she called Daddy, she plotted for a perfect opportunity to get him red-handed. She remembered his words while he buckled his trousers, and it pained her, for this was true. Even if you tell anyone, no one will believe you. Smirking with a wicked grin, Uche left her to fall into the pit of distrust. Truly, no one would believe her if she spoke up. He was indeed a good man, or so they thought, for he was a deacon in the church and a high-ranking elder. He was also too old to have such thoughts, so how was she going to explain what has happened to anyone? I have to find a way, she said to herself. As days went by, things seemed as if it was going back to normal. Uche acted like he was a saint, and this made Nazaekpere to wonder if he was the same man as of that night. She began to have second thoughts, seeing the peace and quiet in the home. What even convinced her the most was what happened one Sunday after she had come back from church. Naza, are you cooking? Uche asked Chinazaekpere in a gentle voice while spying to see if anyone was close. No, Daddy. As you can see, I'm washing the dishes. Nazaekpere said stiffly, but she still forced herself to call him Dad. Please, dear, forgive me for what happened that night. It was the work of the devil, Uche said softly, because he was sure no one could hear their conversation. Okay, Daddy, Nazaekpere replied. I promise it will never happen again, he said, assuring her that he was a changed man. Okay, Daddy, she said once more, skeptical as to if this man was truly sorry. I don't know what got over me. How can I think of doing such a thing to my lovely daughter? Uche broke down in tears as he knelt down to plead for mercy. Daddy, no! Stand up! Nazaekpere rushed to pull Uche, whom she didn't expect to kneel down to ask for forgiveness. I have forgiven you, she said, wiping his tears with her apron. And this was how Nazaekpere let go of the grudge, seeing her daddy as a changed man. It was probably the devil, she would say to herself whenever doubts came to her mind. Uche had 5 children, 4 boys and a girl. His daughter was the last born and was 5 years older than Nazaekpere. All his sons were graduates and each was successful at their businesses. But this did not stop them from coming by from time to time to visit the family house. Every quarter, the entire household gathered for a family meeting where issues were brought and discussed as a family. Tomorrow happened to be the day for the meeting, and a lot of preparations were made. Though they prepared a feast each Sunday due to numerous visitors they usually had, the preparations being made now was as if they were about to organize a ceremony. They went to church as usual and came home to finish up whatever preparations remained. Adanna, the only daughter of the family, who was year one in the university, had returned for this meeting and was helping out in the church. She returned the day before, and Nazaekpere had caught up on so many things with Adanna, who poured out her heart as to how much she missed Nazaekpere. This feeling was mutual, and they each wished that Adanna would stay more, since they became best friends from the moment Nazaekpere stepped her foot in the house. One by one, the boys came home. Each was handsome and the dream of every girl, but they were just another boy in the eyes of the gossip duo, Adanna and Nazaekpere, for this was what their brothers called them. But it didn't stop with the brothers. Familiar faces also came. These were the relatives from the village and some that lived in other towns. Is there a special occasion? The duo asked themselves as they weren't expecting such crowd. No wonder the preparations were much, Nazaekpere said, nodding her head because she was wondering why the preparations were larger than the previous meetings. After everyone ate to their fill, the meeting commenced without a hitch. The outsiders listened in and nodded their head at how organized and peaceful the family was. They even secretly wished to have such children. Finally, it was time for the father, Mr. Uche, to speak. Everyone was quiet as they looked up to the elder for wisdom. Uche was in his early 50s. He didn't look his age because not only did he eat healthily, he exercised as well. His build was demoralizing and his looks had not faded one bit. Though he paled to his wife, his children were an evidence of his youthful appearance. I know a lot of you will be wondering why everyone is gathered for this meeting. Uche began as he received approving nods from the audience. Well, the matter is of grave importance. That is why I want everyone to be present while I say this, he continued. I may not be perfect, but I have tried to be the best father to all my kids. I have worked and toiled to raise them, and that is why they are all what they are today. His listeners nodded in approval as they waited in anticipation for him to hit the nail on the head. What I do not tolerate is a disobedient child. I do not permit waywardness, and above all, I do not tolerate betrayal. Putting his hand in his pocket, he brought out a bundle of pictures and threw them on the table. These pictures are proof of what I'm about to say. They each picked a picture and were surprised by what they saw. They murmured and looked at a particular person in the room. Nazaekpere. Is my hair unkempt? She asked her body, Adana. They are probably admiring your luscious hair, Adana praised and replied. They had not picked a picture since none was remaining on the table, but with the looks Nazaekpere was receiving, they had to look at one in the hands of the closest person. Shocked beyond imagination, Nazaekpere wondered what she was actually seeing. Is this me? She blurted out, looking up to her daddy, whose eyes were now fierce and she could see the same devil from that night. I have been deceived, she muttered. I have fallen into a trap, she said to herself in disbelief as to how naive she was. How do I think he has changed? She asked as his words of accusation filled the air. People looked at her with disgust wherever she turned. The words of her mother ringed in her ears. Change is the only thing that is constant. Everything around her became a blur. Her eyes lost focus and she fainted. A girl child who has experienced trauma finds it hard to love again.